Indeed. We're going to go into two exposés now. And I mentioned on Tuesday I would have more on the group named in the show called UC Global. And this is from their website. How interesting. Mexico City, October the 3rd, 2018. Extraordinary event. Globalization and the New World Economic Map, as arranged by UC and CS Global. Now, they're located in Mexico City and continental offices in, not surprisingly, New York, Cyprus, Hong Kong, and carried out its extraordinary event about globalization, followed by the New World Economic Map on Monday, October the 1st, 2018, at Hotel Diplomatico in Colonia Noche Buena in Mexico City as part of their 19th annual Congress Partners Worldwide Conference, carried out from October the 1st to the 3rd at the same venue. And this event pretended to get participants, it said, and current UC and CS Global and UC and CS America associates the main economic trends in the global arena. And they start the event with the conference about Back to Reality, oh dear, by Hugo Lopez Araiza, who's the president of Soroban Japan, Mexico, with the conclusions on last year's predictions and current situation on a worldwide basis. After that, we continued with the presentation of the USMCA, the US-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement, better known as NAFTA. That was approved the day before this event. Oops. And it said it was the new negotiation style for the world, with the strongest leadership in the world, USA, by Gustavo Vega, who's the General Secretary of Colmex El Colegio de Mexico. Was it signed then because Trump was part of this globalist control system? And then it was discussed the role of China as the new economic worldwide leader with One Belt, One Road, or the new Silk Route, by Miao Yi, who's the sub-director of the China Hoy magazine in Latin America, as well as by Gabriela Cedello, operational director of the magazine in Latin America for Mexico. As I have said many years ago, the plan is for China, quote unquote, to take over the UK and America in the world of economics. As for the road, there was an awful lot of ones in that title, wasn't there? One belt, one road, one world government, one currency, and one world religion. But don't make the mistake of thinking this is Chinese ran. It's not. Like the previous Silk Road, it will be ran by the Jewish elites, under the cover of it being China. You see, countries to them operate to twist and manipulate. They're not real. And whilst idiots in defence and agencies complain about the boogeymen, these people plot other schemes whilst they are distracted. And for example, in recent history, the last 500 years, we've had Britain, Holland and America were used as tools for these Jewish elites' plans, and it has nothing to do with the countries and everything to do with these psychopaths. Now, afterwards, Dr. Maricela Connolly, who is Director of China Studies in Colmex El Colegio de Mexico, presented us China leadership in Latin America and Africa, with several important infrastructure projects for the two emerging regions' development. So the plan is for China to take over those regions as well. Were the people consulted? And following that, they reported the influence this progress has had for the up-and-coming leadership of BRICS and how this have benefited also the Asia-Pacific countries. The Saviour Programme, BRICS, ran on the alt media, which I discounted and received abuse for. Also now part of the globalist agenda as well. In reality land, BRICS was created by Rothschilds and Rockefellers. So quite how those two would be seen as saviours is beyond me. In addition, it was presented the current status of the Pacific Alliance, integrated by Mexico, Colombia, Peru and Chile, by Alejandro Ruiz, who's president of the Peru-Mexico Chamber of Commerce. And then they said this: we also had the interesting conference about Trump's fiscal bill and the alternatives for the world to face this reform by Juan Antonio Castro, who's an international tax consultant. And finally, it was presented the new global economic map by Ignacio Martinez, president of Lance and doctor in economic sciences, by UNAM, international journalists at El Universal, CNN, and many other media. A new global economic map, they say. Were the people consulted on this? If we're going to change the world to that degree, when or where the people going to have a say? Oh, I forgot. We don't. In future, we will, if we build the TPC. In light of Tuesday's show, espionage and all kinds of surveillance and malarkey, this expose, which leads us into a rather long final piece, is called Stellar Wind and was the code name of a warrantless surveillance program that began under the George W. Bush administration's President's Surveillance Program. Now, the NSA program was approved by President Idiot Bush shortly after the September the 11th attacks. Everything took place after that day, didn't it not? And was revealed by Thomas Tam in the New York Times back in 2004. Now, Stellar Wind was a prelude to new legal structures that allowed President Bush and Barack Obama to reproduce each of those programs and then expand their reach. Now, the program's activities involved data mining of a large database of the communications of American citizens, including email communications, telephone conversations, financial transactions, and also internet activity. Why didn't the man of the people, Trump, cancel that program? Now, William Binney, a retired technical leader with the NSA, discussed some of the architectural and operational elements of the program in 2012 called Chaos Communication Congress. Is that their real name of Congress? chaos communication. Seems fitting to me. And the intelligence community was able to obtain from the US Treasury Department suspicious activity reports, or known as SARS, which are reports of activities such as large cash transactions that are submitted by financial institutions under anti-money laundering rules. How apt they named it after a coronavirus. SARS. And there were internal disputes within the US Justice Department about the legality of the program because data is collected for large numbers of people, not just the subjects of Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrants, FISA. And during the Bush administration, the Stellar Wind cases were referred to by the FBI agents as pizza cases, because many seemingly suspicious cases turned out to be food takeout orders. How apt they used the term pizza cases as well. And what extraordinary prophecy by the clowns that they would use two words that would become an integral part of the alt media narrative in the future. Now, according to the then FBI Director Robert Mueller, approximately 99% of cases led nowhere, but it's that other 1% that we've got to be concerned about. 1%. So because of the 1%, you have to spy on the all, is what they're telling us. No. What they are really telling us is, at best, they are incompetent and can't work out who the 1% are, or at worst, fear-laden, voyeuristic perverts who can't help themselves. Now, from a report in the Inspectors General of 6 US intelligence agencies that was declassified in September 2015, it became clear that President Bush had originally authorized the collection of telephone and email metadata only if one end of the communications was foreign or when there was a link to terrorism. But in 2004, the Justice Department, ran by the Pinkerton agents, remember, discovered that the NSA was apparently also collecting the metadata of purely domestic communications, after which President Bush declared that NSA had always been allowed to do so, but that analysts were only allowed to look at metadata related to terrorism. The NSA has always been allowed to do so. So why did Bush say the NSA was always allowed to spy on all Americans, when that goes against national laws? Because the NSA is not American and is a company aligned with its British parent company, the GCHQ is why. And with this revised formulation, Bush reauthorized the program on March 11, 2004. Now, in 2004, the head of Office of Legal Counsel, Jack Landman Goldsmith, wrote at least 2 legal memos authorizing the program. I wonder what nationality or race Goldsmith is. Just like a bad penny, they always turn up. And he said, we conclude only that when the nation has been thrust into an armed conflict by a foreign attack on the United States, and the President determines in his role as Commander-in-Chief that it is essential for defense against further foreign attacks to use the wiretapping capabilities of the National Security Agency within the United States, and he has inherent constitutional authority to order warrantless wiretapping, an authority that Congress cannot curtail. Goldsmith wrote that in a 108-page memo dated May 6, 2004. But since when do Congress curtail anything of this nature? And one really has to wonder what actually they do. Perhaps the right word. They sit there doing doo-doo in their pants. Because they certainly talk doo-doo out of their mouth. And in March 2004, the OLC concluded that the email program was not legal, and then Acting Attorney General James Comey, all these familiar names coming out again, refused to reauthorize it. And in March 2012, Wired magazine published that the NSA is building the country's biggest spy center, and you should watch what you say when talking about a vast new NSA facility in Utah. Well, I never. Which proves the NSA is working with the other beings in the Dugway facility. Just saying. And for the first time, a former NSA official has gone on record to describe the program codenamed Stellar Wind in detail, naming the official William Binney, who was a former NSA codebreaker. And Binney went on to say that the NSA had highly secured rooms that tap into major switches and satellite communications at both AT&T and Verizon. And the article suggested that the supposedly terminated Stellar Wind continues as an active program. Of course it is. And this conclusion was supported by the exposure of room 641A in AT&T's operations center in San Francisco in 2006. Now, in June 2013, the Washington Post and The Guardian published an Office of the Inspector General draft report dated March 2009, leaked by Edward Snowden, which was detailing the Stellar Wind program, and no doubt remained about the continuing nature of that surveillance program. In September 2014, the New York Times asserted questions persist after the release of a newly declassified version of a legal memo approving the NSA's Stellar Wind program, a set of warrantless surveillance and data collection activities secretly authorized after the September 11th attacks, as an introductory headline summary with a link. For every event, false or otherwise, they run 3 or 4 or more other programs off of it, like I warned with the German event earlier. The event is always the sleight of hand, and another case of problem reaction, and they provide the solution they wanted to a problem they created. Now, the accompanying article addressed the release of a newly declassified version, and note was made that the bulk of the program, the telephone, internet, and email surveillance of American citizens, remained secret until the revelations by Edward Snowden that to date significant portions of the memo still remain redacted in the newly released version, that doubts and questions about its legality persist. Now, what this proves is their fear. They fear everyone finding out what they are up to. And what they have managed to do well, particularly in this country, is create fear amongst the populace so that they will accept every draconian measure, draconian being the operative word, that erodes away our freedoms. And all because they are terrified of being found out. They are not interested in terrorism. In many parts, we have found out they are the terrorists. Or at the very least, the funders of them. We'll be back with the final piece shortly.